Welcome to my cozy little corner of the internet. Grab a drink, get comfortable, let's chat. So, we're entering the time of spirits where the unseen seem much more present, where our dead seem much more present, their spirits. And it's not because of a point of time, it's more because of our focus, where our mind is, what we're allowing it to see. And because we are so focused on the unseen, we're focused on ghosts and spirits and the past and the dark as a collective, the unseen become much more present. It's like an invitation to be present with us, to make themselves known, to show up. And so it's a combination of our thoughts and where our focus is, and that vibrating through the energy and giving an invitation for them to be more present, for us to receive and conceive it, and also for, us to process that within the mind and be able to have that experience. Some people, this started back in July. I watched a bunch of people right after 4th of July just going all out, decorating and moving into the fall season. Generally, though, you see this heavily between September and November. Those months are generally what are considered the spooky season or the season of spirits. And again, because it's a collective movement, we'll kind of stick to those months as far as this discussion and what we're talking about. But there are some things about spirit season, about spirits in general, that I wanted to touch on because I see so many people. First of all, we have an issue between Hollywood and Christian type of thinking when it comes to spirits, and then what the actual experience is, what actually is going on. So Hollywood makes it, and it's highly derived from, a Christian perspective, but and then also just the general fantasy kind of perspective. And we see it in movies, we see it in these haunting shows, we see it in the paranormal shows, that, they go to spaces that are haunted or have some type of spirit or entity in them, and they're causing disruption and, being, doing bad things and creating havoc for the people there. And does it happen? Yes. Is it what we're perceiving it is? That they're malicious, that they, are out to, cause disruption and harm and scare people? Generally not. And I say that because the fear comes from all of the conditionings that we have grown up with and that we've heard through stories, through movies, these kinds of things. If you're Christian or were Christian, then you would, hear these types of things in your church about evil and, oh, they need to go kind of a thing. Some souls get stuck. Some souls get stuck. They don't move like they're supposed to after they pass. And there's a lot of different reasons why this can happen. and how they get there, but in the end, they get stuck, they don't move, and they stay more present on our vibrational plane. After a while, stuck souls can go sour. It means, they get confused, it's almost like a mental decline, not quite like we think about it from humans, but you can equate it to something similar. They go sour. And when they go sour, their energy comes through differently. They act differently. Sometimes they can get harmful, sometimes they can get scary, but they're just a damaged soul. They're a soul that, you know, has gone too stagnant. And one of the things that I see, especially in all these shows and movies and paranormal shows, and then it's leaked over because people have watched these things and they think that this is how we deal with these kinds of souls. This is what has to be done. They have to be exorcised. They have to be pushed out. They have to, be taken care of, to make things more comfortable for the living. The majority of the time, what the soul needs is healing. They need some type of healing or, realization of what's going on to move. But what they do is they go in, and when they start interacting with the soul or whatever, all of a sudden we're right at banishing and clearing. And it's there's really no conversation, no in between. It's a banishing and clearing. Oh, there's something here. We need to clear it out of the house. And so they go through and they do this banishing and clearing, and they're pushing the spirit out. And you'll often hear, especially even in the shows and stuff, they talk about how they, after a couple of weeks or a month or so, it comes back, or it didn't work. Think about this from a different perspective. You go into somebody's space, somebody's house, and you kick them out. First of all, how do you think you're going to feel? How do you think you're going to feel if somebody came into your house and just, pushed you on out? And think about that they're already confused. So that just adds more damage and more confusion. Like energy likes like energy. If they are tied to that place, when you push them out, you may push them out temporarily, but if you have not done anything to change the energy in that space, after that has been done, they're most likely going to return because it's familiar. It's familiar energy, like energy to like energy. And so without filling the space with new energy and a new type of energy and drawing in a new type of energy, then it's just going to come back. The second part of that, land. Nobody is really talking about the energy of the land when this is involved. So in places like old insane asylums, old battlefields, things like this, where there was a massive amount of, traumatic, sorrowful, fearful energy from the living. All of that emotional energy seeps into the land. It vibrates down into the land and can change the vibration of the land in that space. It's what I would call sour land. It has been tainted, it has been changed by the energy of the living on it. When land is tainted like that, it goes sour. again, like energy likes like energy. It's going to draw like a beacon, like a little lighthouse for all these sour souls and not so nice entities. They're out there. It's not the fearful that everybody makes it out to be. Oh, they're around every corner and they're trying to get you. No, it's never been my experience. But they're out there and they'll get drawn too. And so you end up with a space that's got a lot of different spirits, damaged ones, sour ones, and maybe just some angry, nasty ones. And they're all drawn to a space, to a place, not because they're connected to that place, but because the land has called them to that place. Vibration, the vibration of the land matches their vibration, they come in. If you are, going in and crossing souls and moving them forward, these kinds of things, or clearing out a space, and land is involved, and the energy of the land is involved, and you're not doing anything to heal that, to change that vibration of the land from a more negative to a more positive, then again, it's not going to be long before the same or others, just dependent on how you helped the souls, they're going to end up being called back to that space, and that space is going to fill up again because the land is acting as a beacon. So when you go into any types of spaces that are haunted, or that, people are using that kind of terminology, they're haunted, there's spirits and energies here, and generally they're going to experience it as something negative because they're conditioned to experience as something negative, something fearful. It's the unknown, it's the unseen, and so people get fearful, and that, your energy, your emotions, is also going to be dictating how they're responding to you. If you're approaching somebody aggressively or fearfully, think about how a person is going to respond back to you. And, that's what we're talking about. They're souls. Even the entities are souls. So how we approach it, how we respond, has a lot to do with the response we get back from them. So first of all, enter with respect and kindness. Don't just assume that the spirit is, intentionally meaning harm, or, these kinds of things. A lot of the times they're not. They're scared, they're confused, they're stuck, they may be sour, but their goal isn't, oh, I'm going to harm the humans. They're in their own turmoil. So when you go in, first of all, if you're getting a feel for, the energies, feel the land. You really need to know if land is involved. If land is involved, then you need to be working on land as well as the spirits. If you don't take care of land, then it's just going to be a revolving door. Land takes a lot longer to heal. It takes a lot longer to change the vibration of land, and it's a lot of conscious effort. So keep that in mind. If you are, changing the energy of a space and changing energy of the land, you're going to need to be more consistent. You're going to need to be doing it more often. It's a daily type of conscious work. So if it's somebody else's house or whatever, make sure you're telling them this, make sure you're having that conversation. When you go in and to contact the spirits, start with conversation. Everybody goes full force, not everybody, but a lot of people I hear just go full force into, oh, we got to do this, we got to do that, and even some of the investigators I've seen, they're just about, knowing that it's there. They didn't really seem very interested in understanding the whys or having a conversation with the soul, that spirit. A lot of things we can learn and be resolved just through simple conversation, simple, respectful conversation. Going in and goading and trying to make them angry so they will do something, so we can get proof of them. Again, you just approach that from a really awful perspective. You came at them aggressively, and do not expect that they won't come back aggressively. Does that mean they're aggressive? No. Your approach dictated what that looked like. This is about respect. Respect, soul to soul respect. You wouldn't want this done to you as far as the way that you're approaching and the way that you're acting towards them. So don't do it to them. Be respectful. Open the door for a conversation. You'll find out a lot of different things just through simple opening the door for conversation. If they are a stuck soul, you can help them cross. If they are a soured soul, you can help them cross if they're at that point. Sometimes they're a little too far gone, and some other healing and things need to happen. You may need to get allies like a reaper to help you in this area. But, see what is going on first. Get an understanding of why they're there in the first place, because that's going to tell you what approach you need to take next in order to help them move on. Just pushing them out, one, rude, two, it's not helpful, and they probably won't stay gone. And even if they do, then they're going to end up someplace else doing the same thing, except for now you've added more damage to them. So I understand that some people are going to be really fearful of spirits. This is going to be a difficult thing for them to wrap their head around, as far as, having a conversation, or, not the way that we go and approach things. But we need to have compassion here, and we need to have some respect. They are a soul, and if we're talking about the souls of the dead, they were living people. And if we're talking about entities, not all entities are bad. We've got lots and lots of good entities. Yes, there are some that are not so great, that, do not like us very much. But that's not going to be all of them, and to automatically assume that is wrong. Even if we don't see their approach as healthy, maybe they are being scary, maybe they are doing bad things in the house, throwing things around, that kind of stuff. But what is the reason behind that? What has happened to create that? Maybe there's something that somebody has done there that has disrupted something that, needs to be fixed. And once that's fixed, then that entity won't be doing these things. All of our unseen are all around us all the time. There's a lot of layers of our world that we vibrationally do not perceive. We do not perceive them with our sight, with our hearing, but they exist. And so what we do on our vibrational plane affects their vibrational plane, just like theirs affects ours in different ways from an energetic standpoint. So there are things that we can do that disrupt something on their vibration and creates discourse. So understanding, what led up to the kind of activity that you're talking about. What happened? Did the homeowners do anything different? Was there anything different that they or that you did to create that kind of interaction? I also saw a post recently, and I'm sure she was joking about it, by talking about, getting a group of people together and doing a seance to call up the racist ghosts or the bad ghost to, taunt them and be mean to them. First of all, not helpful. Secondly, when people die, we learn different things. We see things from different perspectives. We're not in the human society anymore with all of its conditionings. They're going through reconciliations. They're taking honest looks at themselves. They're doing healing work. All of this. There are a lot of things that may be what we see them as in their living, that they're not that anymore as they're dead. In spirit form, they're different. They've changed, they've healed, they've grown. So first of all, calling up your dead, calling up spirits to taunt them and be mean is just cruel. I mean, I don't care how bad the person was in life. That does not mean that that is what they are in death. And you don't know what created that in life. You don't know where they got it from. You don't know where that was conditioned from. And we hold a lot of conditionings. Our society conditions us in so many ways. And people do not even begin to realize what that is until they start really deconstructing each one. And the massive amount of conditioning. And when our dad died, we're deconstructing that kind of conditioning. We're healing those things. We're taking an honest look at the bad things that we've done and the things that were wrong, and healing those within ourselves, reconciling that. If that person is recent dead, if they're still doing that work in the well, you can create so much damage and disruption by doing that. Why? So don't. Just leave them be. There's no reason to be dredging it up. There's no reason to be dredging them up. And there is no reason to be creating more damage in a damaged. And that's what you're doing with that kind of behavior. You want to reach out. You want to contact with spirits. You want to have communication. That's wonderful. I'm not discouraging that at all. I think the more and more people that, have contact with spirits, have that kind of experience from a respectful place, is good for our understanding of soul, but it's also good for our connection between the seen, the living, and the unseen, because we all reside here. So as we move through this season, just kind of keep these things in mind. When you're watching your horror and your stuff, I'm a horror buff too. Love horror movies, love scary stuff. but it's a story. It's not supposed to be this is how we handle this situation. This is what we do. This is, the way that you'll see the approach towards the unseen, towards the dead, is usually very disrespectful, and it's very aggressive, and it's like dealing with people in life. If how you approach them, how you come at them is going to be reflected back. That's how they're going to reflect back to you. That's how they're going to approach you. The spirits are more present because we are creating that kind of energy for them to be more present with our focuses, with our mindsets, with our collective energy. So we're inviting. Let's be good hosts. They're answering. They want to be present. They want to share stories. Most of the time, you're dead. They just want to share stories. They want to talk about their stuff. They, want to show you something, or they just want conversation. Just some conversation. Just some presence. If you're dealing with ancestors and stuff, cooking. Oh, get in the kitchen and cook up some stuff, especially like baked goods, because they smell a whole lot more. But baked goods, soups, things that are really aromatic, that have lots of smell, really draws in the dead. They really like smells, especially baking smells, like pies and breads and things like that. Invite them for conversation. If you have not heightened your soul senses in order to hear, perceive the spirits and stuff, you can use tarot for conversation. You can use all kinds of different modes. You can even use some of the, I don't know so much about the ghost equipment stuff. Some of it's kind of gotten a little out there, and I'm skeptical on it. Some of the old stuff, recordings, you can sometimes catch things on there. But if you want like real conversation, start working on getting into trance modes so you can, heighten your soul senses in order to perceive normally like you would anything else. But in the meantime, you can do tarot for conversation. You can do mirror scrying. There's all kinds of different methods and stuff. They're all out there if you want to go look. Ouija boards. I'm hit and miss with spirit boards. But there's all kinds of different ways to communicate with them. You find a method that works for you now, but really, really work on heightening your soul senses in order to, be able to really perceive them and have more of a back and forth conversation, like we're, hanging out here and having that conversation. So yeah, just some things to think about, some tips, some ideas for our current spirit season. Have a great day.